You're very welcome to episode 224 of the Tree Talk podcast with myself, Jack Neville, and Matt O'Callaghan of the Weekly Observer, in association with Noel's Menswear. So thank you to Noel's Menswear for getting on board with Tree Talk. Another bumper episode to get through this week. There's so much happened since we last spoke, Matt. Very little in terms of games, but there's been squads announced and managerial changes and things of that nature. So stay tuned for all that and more.
The impression the game you get out with what you put into. It's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
But not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well done, Shawnee Buckley. To do that to Tomas O'Shea, he deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the word court today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the back of it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time left? We have a couple of injuries. Here comes Cian Carey. Carey leading the charge of the right brigade. 45 metres out. He's a chance to score. He's put it high. He's put it over.
There's no sympathy in this game for anybody.
We're recording on a Wednesday afternoon. It's not great out there, Matt. How are you keeping?
I'm good, Jack. I'm good. There's certainly a bit of a change there, but I think it was forecast that we're to get heavy rain today, and I suppose it's been spot on. The forecast never seems to be wrong when this bad weather is predicted, but I'm feeling good. But I'd much prefer if there was. We don't know what the weather is going to be like, which is, heading into what's a very, very busy weekend for Limerick GA, and on many fronts, I suppose, a defining weekend for Limerick GA, because the senior hurlers potentially can qualify for the league semi-final. The senior footballers can take a giant step away from the bottom of the table. The same for the senior Camogie side. So, and the minor Camogie side might take a giant step towards the B knockout stages. So, it's a hectic weekend, but we would certainly like that the gods above and the elements would frown favourably on us, but we don't have control over it, Jack.
Yeah, I think regardless of the weather, we'll see you make your triumphant return to the Gaelic Grounds as well on Sunday, please God.
Yeah, I'm absolutely delighted to, I had been stricken with illness there, as you know, for the last 15 months. It limited my movement considerably, but I'm back in the Gaelic Grounds and I'm delighted to be back there on Sunday.
You might miss the game with the amount of people that you'll have to stop and chat to inside the Gaelic Grounds. I remember at the Camogie finals 2 years ago, we nearly missed the start of it. There were so many people clamouring to get a word in with you, Matt. So hopefully we'll be back to that this weekend.
I'll make a little beeline tower hole up at the top of the stand, Jack.
Yeah, that's the place to be. Obviously, a double header. It's a huge games.
Our own ivory tower.
Yeah. But before we get into any games, Matt, or into the weekend's action, obviously on Sunday evening, terrible, tragic news broke. For the GA community, the passing of Liam Kearns, someone so synonymous with, obviously he's a Kerry man, but so synonymous with the success of not only Limerick in the early 2000s, but also Tipperary, and he was the Offaly manager at the time of his passing. But when I was growing up, I was only 3 or 4 when they got to the Under-21 All-Ireland Final, but that group of players gave us so many good days. And when I was young, Limerick football was the only show in town. The hurlers, weren't up to much. They got to that Ireland final in 2007, but it's hardly mad for people now to think about what the state of play was in Limerick GA circles, that it was the football team, and Liam Kearns was the spearhead of that. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, Jack, look, everything that has gone on, over the last week and will go on over the coming weeks and for many weeks to come are completely overshadowed by that tragic news that we had on Sunday evening. You're absolutely right. Look, wherever Liam Kearns went, and it wasn't an accident, success followed. And you could say to a certain degree, Jack, that he revolutionised Limerick football, because he first became involved with Broadford and very much left his mark in the rise of Broadford from being scarcely involved in football at all to being one of the powerhouses of Limerick football, which has yielded 7 county senior titles. Now, he wasn't involved in all of them. He was involved at the start, but he moved on then to the Limerick under-20 side, and he did fantastic innings. He assembled a fantastic team in 2000, in the year 2000, and I have no doubt it was his football news that brought the whole lot of them together and gave us such a marvellous run in that year. A rare Munster semi-final win over Cork in Cork led to a Munster final down in Dungarvan, which Limerick won by 7 points to 4, to be crowned Munster champions in the grade for the first time and the only time to date. And then went on to beat Westmeath in the All-Ireland semi-final, to set up a final with a star-studded Tyrone side, captained by Cormac McAnallen, above in Mullingar. And it was a Limerick team that did things the hard way, for the simple reason that they had to go to Cork. They then had to go to Waterford, which is most unusual in a Munster final. I remember there was debate about it at the time. And then had to, I think it was Portlaoise, to beat Westmeath, and then had to go to Mullingar to play Tyrone. It was a phenomenal achievement, and he brought it all together, and he spearheaded it all. But he later went on to the senior team, Jack, and he absolutely maximised to the very last that under-20 side. He successfully had so many of those players make a successful transition from underage to senior, and it's not easily done. And in that we contested a number of Munster finals, and were it not for the height and the fingers of Darragh O'Shea, like we would have ended 113 years without a Munster title in 2004 when we forced Kerry to a replay. So, he really, really left his mark in Limerick football, and he brought Limerick football to a new place. No question about it. And he brought new belief into football in the county. And of course, his record since has been phenomenal. He went on to Laois, guided them to a Leinster final, went on to Tipperary, guided them to an All-Ireland semi-final for the first time in 81, and that included a quarter-final win over Galway. And Jack, in recent weeks and in recent months, he was beginning to make his mark in Offaly. Offaly won the All-Ireland Under-20 Championship 2 years ago. And, it was a masterstroke on the part of Michael Dagnan to bring in somebody like Liam Kearns, who would help those players, as he successfully did with Limerick, transition from under-20 to senior. And he had sown the seeds of a revival in Offaly, but unfortunately, it has been cut so short. And we would like just to join with the whole myriad of people across the country in extending our sympathy to his wife, his daughters, and his extended family at this very, very difficult time.
Yeah, I'll echo those sentiments and condolences to his wife, his 2 kids, and all the family. But I hope the tributes to the men go some way in helping them come to terms with it, because he did so much for every county he was involved in. And obviously on Sunday as well, we had the sad passing of Tom Moore, who was another man synonymous with that with Limerick around the time in both hurling and football. Moran's Red Cow Hotel was emblazoned on the jersey. Probably the first jersey I have has Moran's Red Cow Hotel on the front of it. So condolences to Tom Moran and his family. Also, 2 good Gaels lost, unfortunately, on the same day. Getting into...
I would like to concur with you on that, and Tom Moran, like an absolutely, totally dedicated Limerick man, who started from humble beginnings in West Limerick and became, I suppose, Jack, he became a pioneer in the pub trade, and which led from having a pub in West Limerick to having the iconic Red Cow now in Dublin, and there was a link with Liam Kearns, in that I think Tom Moran and the Red Cow were the Limerick main sponsors at the time of the Limerick breakthrough in 2000 and their subsequent near misses in the Munster Senior Football Championship in the early noughties. And again, to Tom Moran's family, we extend our sincere sympathy. Like, Limerick GA has lost 2 icons, Jack, 2 iconic figures that have given so much for so long to the county. Now, as you rightly said, Liam Kearns was a Kerryman, but he's an adapted Limerick man, no doubt at all about it. He made Limerick his home, although I think he was living in Clonlara, but his association was with Limerick, full stop. And it's a very, very sad. It's very, very sad week, Jack, for the GA in this county. Two men that have given so much for so long.
Yeah, may they rest in peace. Getting into the games that the main game we had at the weekend, Matt, was obviously the Limerick hurlers beat Westmeath pretty comprehensively, 127-115. Without dwelling on the result, I don't think the result was ever really in question. I don't think a team operating where Westmeath are were going to trouble the reigning 3-0 All-Ireland champions, but there was so much positives for Limerick to take out of the game. Obviously, neither of us were there, so we're only relying on clips, but Diarmaid Byrnes, Aaron Gillane, Cathal O'Neill and Mike Casey are back, with Wexford to come this weekend and probably league semi-finals. Limerick are looking in really good shape this year.
Looking in really good shape, and I understand that David Reedy is closing in on a return again within a couple of weeks of it. So, look, going to Westmeath, and this is no disrespect to Westmeath because there's wonderful people in Westmeath doing great work for hurling, but there was ever only going to be one result, Jack, and that was Limerick were going to come away with the points. I suppose the only thing that was in question was the margin of victory, because had Clare beaten Galway, it might very well have come down in the last day to points difference, but that's out the window now at the moment. Unless Wexford beat Limerick and Galway beat Westmeath, we'll be back into the points scenario again. But you're right, Jack. What was there's so much to take out of what was a routine game and a routine victory for Limerick, and it's the return of the 4 lads, which is absolutely phenomenal. To think that here you are heading into the closing stages of the league, and you're able to call on that type of talent, to booster up your forces at this time, at this crucial stage of the year. Like hurler dear Dermot Burns, 3 times All-Star Gavin Gillane, Mikey Casey, Cathal O'Neill. What other counties would give to have the like of 4 players like that coming in at a stage when you're on the home straight of the league, Jack, and wherever that journey will take us. We know that if we avoid defeat against Wexford on Sunday, that it will take us to a semi-final with Tipperary the following weekend, and possibly maybe a league final 2 weeks later. So there's so much positives to be taken out of the win over Westmeath. And, for the reasons that we said, it would normally be a routine type of game. But certainly for the reasons we said, it is hugely, hugely significant. And I could imagine not crystal balling or anything at this stage. It's likely that we're going to see those 4 starting again on Sunday to get valuable game time. But Jack, spare a thought for 𝘕𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬𝘬 play. That's the stuff that dreams are made of. He had made a couple of cameo appearances before this. And Jack, he has a very healthy tally of 1 goal and 6 points in the league to date, all from play.
He scored in every game he's played in.
That is a player like that came through the under-20 system, played in the All-Ireland Final last year, and was such a crucial figure in Monaghan winning the All-Ireland, man of the match in the All-Ireland Final. He's a player that has absolutely developed game on game almost at this stage. And I think it's fair to say that at this stage, Donegal Dolly is an integral part of the Limerick senior squad.
Yeah, and he's one of a couple that have come in and have made their mark, because we've obviously lost some players to the squad. There's been no official release of who's in or who's out, but saw Pat Ryan and off the ball. We'd heard that he wasn't with the panel any longer. I think Robbie Handley is another one. There's a few more that we haven't seen that we aren't likely to see again. But the likes of Donegal and Fergal O'Connor, even Shane O'Brien, that they're coming in and they're making their impact straight away. And it bodes well for Limerick, because you do have to keep it fresh going forward. But this Sunday at 1:45, it's Wexford.
But Jack, before you go from that point, I'd like to make a point. You should never say never, never. For players, I think being dropped off the panel should throw down a challenge to those that were dropped to prove the manager wrong. And get up to the level again that he just has to recall him. And John Kiely will have no problem recalling people if they're playing up to the required standard, particularly with their club. So for the players that were dropped, all is not lost. They're going to have a fantastic opportunity during the Limerick Senior Hurling Championship to restake their claims.
Yeah, we saw with Oisin O'Reilly what he did for Kilmallock 2 years ago, and now he's part in. And, when he's All-Ireland, was a key member of the squad last year. So, as you said, never say never, but credit to the young lads that are hitting the ground running and Donegal Dolly, the leading light in that regard. But Wexford, Matt, is tricky because they haven't been going well, but they're probably a team that winter hurling suits more than summer hurling. And Limerick have a pretty bad record against Wexford. Obviously lost in the first round last year. Were beaten in John Kiely's first game in charge in 2017. Now both of those came in Wexford Park, but I haven't seen much talk of Wexford upsetting the odds, and I don't think they will, but they'll be far more difficult than people are making out.
Yeah, I think they will. I think Wexford showed signs of revival last week against Cork. But what has been unsaid about Wexford during the league campaign to date? First of all, they had a number of players that had given great service to the county. Had retired at the start of the year. People like Harry Keogh, Paul Morris, and these fellas who were ever presence with Wexford. Sean Murphy, I think, was another one. But they were without a number of key players like Matthew O'Hanlon, Lee Chin, Rory O'Connor. And I suppose it's no coincidence that Matthew O'Hanlon and Lee Chin were back last Sunday against Cork. And Lee Chin got 9 points, five of them from play. So apparently he's none the worst of his layoff. So yeah, Wexford have always proved to be difficult customers for Limerick. And I think it's going to be a difficult game, but it'll probably be the type of game that John Kiely would want at this stage to get a tough test to his players. as they head into the knockout stage of the competition if they win. Plus, and at this stage of the year, with the championship scarcely over a month away, you easy rides are no good in preparation for the championship, Jack.
No, and I think Limerick...
You want tough games. And you see, Wexford will be coming to the Gaelic Grounds. They have nothing to play for. Nothing to play for. So, insofar as the league is concerned, but Jack, they will want to be getting their ducks in order. They will want to be getting their house in order, because they have a huge game in the opening round of the Leinster Championship when they travel to Pearse Stadium to play Galway. And you know the importance, Jack, that there is in getting off to a winning start in a tight situation, such as the Munster and Leinster Championships are. And like it's a huge game for Wexford travelling to Galway. I suppose, apart from maybe Nolan Park, there couldn't be a tougher test. So Gary Egan, it'll be a chance in the series competitive game. He will be relying on challenge games after this. To get his team, and what you will see, I expect Sunday is as near as possible to a Wexford Championship team.
Yeah, most likely, and I'd say the same could probably be said for Limerick. They're more than likely going to have a league semi-final to look forward to, but if they don't, John Kye doesn't want to run the risk of getting prepared for a league semi-final, and it doesn't come. Permutations is if Limerick win or draw, they're through. If they lose and Clare and Galway both win, then all three of them will finish on 6 points and it'll come down to scoring difference. And Clare's is very healthy after their big win over Westmeath. So for Limerick to go through, they just need to avoid losing and Clare and Galway winning, because they have head-to-head over the two of them. So that's the state of play for Limerick heading into this final round game. But I'll come back to the hurlers at the very end. There's one just sharp question I want to ask you about the hurlers. But sticking with hurling and moving on to the under-20s and minors, their squads were announced during the week. They're both starting their Munster Championship campaigns next week. The minors are in the Fraher Field on Tuesday for Waterford, and the under-20s are there the following evening against the same opposition. It's running the same round robin as the Senior Championship, so we'll get plenty of time to see both. The minor games have been streamed by Munster JTV. The 20s games are by the TG4's YouTube channel. Both squads are on the website if you want to see them. Briefly on the minors, the under-17s, Dermot Lackabenog, Sean Morrissey is the team captain, and Dara Furland of Monleen is the vice captain. Evan Loftus is the manager. There's an extensive backroom team. There's a couple of lads remaining from last year's team. Ty Body, we know, from the Long Puck, Shane O'Grady, Darren Colopy, John O'Keefe, and Dermot Lyons are all in tow again. But under-17s, Matt, we'll see a lot of new faces coming through. But the under-20s, there's a lot of lads there that we know about, players that we've seen in action, namely Adam English, an All-Ireland winner. He's probably the best-known name on that under-20s team. Ethan Hurley is captain. Paddy Donovan is vice-captain. Paddy obviously played for Limerick Seniors a couple of times last year. From the All-Ireland, or the team that got to the All-Ireland 20s final last year, Matt, there's 7 still there that started the final. Evan O'Leary from Mahan, Cian Scully, Dermot Lacka, John Kirkpatrick as well, Adam English and Shane O'Brien from Kilmallock, as well as Ethan Hurley and Paddy Donovan. Obviously, Waterford have a certain Patrick Fitzgerald from Ballygunner that we know too well at this stage. But that 20s team is fairly stacked, isn't it?
It's a strong side, actually, and they as minors they won the championship, minor championship. They beat Tipperary in a hectic Munster final in Limerick and had a very good win over Cork in the semi-final in Thurles. Now that's 3 years ago, and you'd say, and it was in the height of the COVID pandemic as well. So you'd be entitled to think that it'll have no bearing whatsoever on what will happen in this year. But it's a guide, Jack. But it's no more. And you just have a look at the under-21 squad, and as you rightly pointed out, 3 of them have played with the Limerick Seniors. We'll say Adam English and Shane O'Brien are currently involved. Patrick O'Donovan has experience with it, but there are other players, have experienced great highs since emerging from minors, and I'm talking about the like of Ronan Lyons, Lachlan McHale, and Joseph Fitzgerald. They would have been exposed to top class hurling, including winning an All-Ireland final in Croke Park, which will benefit them. Like Cian Scully is just out of he will be out of college this year, I think. And Evan O'Leary, Mikey Gavin, they're All-Ireland winners as well. With Ard Skull Reach, and JJ Carey is in there as well. So, and there are others. So, Dermot Mullins has assembled a very, very strong squad, a squad with a winning mentality, Jack. Now, it has to be said, Jack, that for the first year, the Munster Under-21 Hurling Championship has been run on a full round robin. Like the 5 counties, Kerry are not involved, but the other 5 counties will all play each other. And the team that will finish top, the county that will finish top at the end will go straight through to the final, and the counties that finish second and third will play in a Munster semi-final. So it's going to be an exciting month. Now, the final is down for early May. Semi-final and final are down for early May. So we're going to have a crash course of Munster Under-20 hurling. Now, the vibes the vibes that we are hearing is that Waterford have a very good team this year. And
Patrick Fitz, obviously.
We seem to have heard that before, but look, you have to take on what you put in front of you, and we cannot overstate the importance of getting off to a winning start. And Limerick will certainly, now Ethan Hurley was an exceptionally good minor, and I think he has transitioned very, very well into adult hurling, particularly with Newcastle West last year. He was an absolute key player, and really, and I think possibly a very good choice that he has been named as captain. We all know what Patrick O'Donovan can do. Like he was involved with Limerick in the Munster League, was it last year?
Yeah, against Kerry.
Played a number of games, got on the score sheet. But was dogged by injury for a lot of 2022. But seemed when he finally shed off the injury, recaptured his best form, particularly for Effin. And I would certainly be looking forward to Patrick and being a key member. And of course, Jack, we haven't mentioned Shane O'Brien and Adam English.
Yeah, there's so many players on the squad. And
we know what that duo are about.
There's loads from the club scene, especially just running through the list briefly. Like Dave Fitz from 𝘕𝘰𝘦𝘯𝘴, I think is an exceptional good young hurler.
Absolutely, an exceptional player, Jack. I agree with you. A total exceptional player. Now, there's a young lad out in Temple Glanton who's a very good player as well, Adam Fitzgerald. Whether he'll make the first 15 or not, I don't know. But a very, very good player coming through, and it's nice to see players like that.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Coming through, and
there's more. Just when you mentioned a lad that mightn't be on the starting team, I think Fintan Fitz. I'd say he's still only 17 from Mungo St. Paul's. We saw him for Ard Skull Reach, like a brilliant forward. He's
absolutely, and my understanding is he has another year with Ard Skull Reach.
Oh, I would imagine so. He's just out of minor, like he's only 17 years of age. He's club mate Liam Lynch.
Very good player. And if you recall, he had an exceptionally good game in last year's Premier Under-21 final. And just mentioning that Under-21 final, how great it is to see Liam Lynch back.
That's where I was going to his club mate
in the Limerick panel.
Yeah, Liam has all the qualities to go all the way. So hopefully he shed that injury. He's played for 21, so I'd imagine he'd be right to the fore. And then Oisin O'Farrell, it's good to have a Skeeton man in there. He was phenomenally good for us last year, by far and away our best player. And he was only 17 at the time. So for Oisin to get his recognition out here in the West, like Adam Fitz and Templeton and more of these lads, it's good to see that there's a spread around the county. So as I said, you're laughing away there.
I cannot let you go without mentioning him, Dennehy of Glenroe.
Yeah, but we've seen Liam for a long time, and he was with UL as well, as far as I'm concerned. But it's great that there is. I think there's 24.
Yeah. No, your point is well made, Jack. Your point is very well made. It's it means that Dermot Mullins and his management team have scoured the length and breadth of this county to get the best talent that's available.
There's 24 clubs represented, which says its own about the work that was done by the lads. But 7 o'clock next Wednesday, live on YouTube Sport, 𝘕𝘰𝘬𝘪𝘢𝘵 Limerick versus Waterford. They'll have Clare at home, they'll have Tip away and Cork at home, the same format as the seniors. So will the minors, so the best luck to Evan Loftus with the minors and to Darren Mullins with the 20s. We'll be keeping a close watch on all the goings on with the minors and 20s going forward. Alongside the seniors, it's going to get very, very hectic, Matt. I think it's fair to say. But we wouldn't have it any other way. In terms of...
Jack, we're into the meaty part of the season now as far as the intercounty is concerned. Once the underage starts, we're going to have minors and under 21s practically on a weekly basis. We're going to have the under 21 football coming on board in early July. And I have to mention it again, Jack. I have to mention it again, and I presume you're going to be mentioning the Liam O'Connor Cup.
Yeah, well, we'll be
I'll keep my powder dry till you until you mention.
I'm sticking with the small.
Jack, I know what you're thinking. There's a tirade coming.
Yeah, I'll hold you on. I'll hold you on hurling Camogie for a while. We'll stick with the small ball while we're on it, and we'll go to the big ball then for good once we get through that. But in terms of Camogie, Matt. Obviously, the seniors game was called off last week against Down. That is just refixed for this Saturday. Limerick versus Down in Leitrim Fontenoys at 2 o'clock this Saturday afternoon. Permutations, everything stay the same. Need a win, and you're probably safe with a win before you play Offaly. But going on to the minors, Matt, and you saw them in action. Fantastic win over the weekend, pretty comprehensively against Offaly. And you said there's a lot of good players coming through there. So the future is bright for Limerick Camogie.
Jack, when I saw that Limerick minor panel when it was announced, I think it was as far back as November. It'll give you a sense of the amount of work that joint managers Paul Neenan and Tony Dunn have put into them. I was immediately struck by some of the players that I knew and the qualities that they brought. First of all, there were 4 players from Adair, all of who have Munster junior medals to show for their efforts, and 3 of them got on the starting team. Now, Carla Griffin didn't, but Amy Mullins and did, as did Poppy Giltinan and Ciara Dunn. They who was magnificent, I thought, at midfield last week. But Poppy Giltinan, Jack, this is a special player. This is a special Camogie player. I believe that she's a very, very good player. I saw the like of Katie Dorr and Abby Murray, who played in last year's county senior Camogie final. Now, they didn't start, but they came on and made a contribution. And Katie Dorr got Limerick's 3rd goal. Roisin O'Brien is a huge talent. Jack, she was playing at centre forward. She ended up with a goal and 4 points. She's the daughter of well-known referee Kevin O'Brien. And she had an absolutely fine game. As you know, and I don't want to be name-dropping too much. Niamh Brennan, we knew about her coming up at underage. She played again with a hand seniors last year. And a girl called Laura Southern from Monaleen, a very, very useful player. But Jack, 1 to 15, this is a strong Limerick team. A very strong Limerick team. And I just put it into context. Offaly's last game was before they played Limerick, was the Leinster Shield final against Wexford, who they beat comprehensively to retain the Shield. And so, look, they came to Limerick with high hopes. But, Jack, it was over after 9 minutes. Limerick had 7 points on the board. 7 points, 7 scores. You know, which like they had a forward line that was movement. I didn't mention Claire Power and Donna Kenny down the forwards either. Look, Jack, to me, they're a good side. You know, and certainly Paul Neenan and Tony Dunn chatting with him after, you know, they certainly weren't getting carried away. Whilst they appeared to be pleased, they weren't getting carried away. They go to Wexford this weekend. A Wexford team that was, as I said, comprehensively beaten by Offaly, and the Omens should be good for a second win.
Yeah, well, the best look to that side they've
shown.
Then
they travelled to Meath, who were beaten by Wexford, and then they have Antrim in Abbottstown before finishing the campaign with a game against Clare. So that is what is in front of them.
Well, the best look to the squad, they've started in the right direction, and the best look to the junior side as well. They're in action this weekend against Dublin. We haven't confirmation of fixtures, but it'll be online or on the Camogie's Twitter and Facebook when that comes through. So the best look.
Yeah, but Jack, this is Wednesday and the game is Saturday.
I know, but we'll be here all day.
I know we're hammering this. We're hammering this every week. Like, as far as we're concerned, the game against Dublin could be Mars, the Moon, or Croke Park, you know.
Yeah.
And this is Wednesday, and the game is Saturday. 72 hours out, and we don't know a venue, no, we don't know a time.
No, it's not right.
And let me tell you this: Limerick Camogie don't know either because they haven't been informed.
Yeah, well, it's not fair on players or management, and it's not the fault of Limerick, but it happens far too often, and there's only so many times you would say without banging your head off the wall. So, look, they just need to get things sorted. There's two associations very close to them that run it right. So hopefully they can get that in order.
I'm prepared to keep getting the bangs off the wall, Jack.
Yeah,
on this one.
Fair play to you, but it's frustrating to say the least. But moving into more positive note, the Colaiste Trocaire, the school in Rathkeale, are an All-Ireland D Final tomorrow afternoon at 1:30 in the Laois Offaly ETB Centre of Excellence. They play Lucan CBS in the D All-Ireland Final. We spoke to Captain Cian Carroll, who's another part of that star-studded under-20 squad, and their coach, Robert McNamara, yesterday afternoon to get their thoughts ahead of the game. So we'll play that for you now. To be joined by the Colaiste Trocaire Rathkeale duo, Robert McNamara and Cian Carroll, ahead of their All-Ireland D Final this Thursday afternoon in the Laois Offaly ETB Centre of Excellence as they play Lucan CBS in that D All-Ireland Final. Robert is the coach of the school and Cian is the captain. Cian, I'll come to you first. Approaching All-Ireland Final on Paddy's Week, what's the mood like in the school coming up to the game?
There's a great buzz now around the school the past few weeks. Like, the teachers and all have been buying into it a lot, like, and they're putting up bunting and flags for us and everything, and we're getting a lot of supporters now up to the match as well, so it'll be a great occasion for all the lads, and we all just can't wait now to get out into the field on Thursday.
Are you able to get out of class a bit easier now? An excuse in All-Ireland Final coming up?
I don't know about that now. Sir's been warning us all day to make sure we get all our homework done and get to class because he doesn't want any trouble, but I don't know, a few teachers now are less lenient than the rest of them.
What's it like, the dynamic in a school team that you, obviously there's going to be lads from your own club, but you're going to be playing rivals that you play with your club later on in the year. How do you gel together?
I don't know, it really helps, you know, when you've been in school for the past 6 years. Like, we all have a great bond between us, all the boys, like, and every time we go out onto the field, we all just want to do the best for each other, like, and we're a fierce, hard-working team. Like, everyone tries to just push everyone on, like, and like, we haven't experienced too much success between all of us, even with clubs and everything. So like, it'll just be great, push on now and win this All-Ireland final.
Yeah, you mentioned pushing on there. You started off very well, obviously, with wins, back-to-back wins, but you seem to getting better as the competition goes on, and your best performance was in the Munster final, and your best performance then came in All-Ireland semi, that you do seem to getting better game on game.
Yeah, definitely. But like, even at the start now, at trainings, like, you'd have a few lads messing around, like, but now that we're getting to the later stages, like, everyone's really getting focused, like, and everyone just wants to get the best out of us, like, and in the matches now, everyone, like, we're all focused for the games, like, everyone would make sure we're eating the right stuff, drinking enough water, like, everyone's taking this match very serious, like, and we just can't wait for it.
Robert, coming to you, do you feel that in the squad that there is improvements as you go on in the year?
Yeah, definitely. Like, you can see it there from the start, from the first game till now. Like, they've improved. They're working better as a unit on the field compared to the start of the year. You know, I suppose with the post-primary schools, it's hard. Like, you know, as you said there at the top of the show, the players are training with different clubs. Now, look, we're blessed. We have a spread across probably about maybe 3-4 clubs on the team. So a lot of them are used to playing with each other. But at the same time, there's people coming into the team, and they have to work together. And you can see it there. They've progressed game after game. And look, there's been easier games and there's been harder games. And you can see they have the resilience in them. And as Cian said, they are a hard-working team, and they have given, you know, 100% or whatever is asked of them, no matter what sort of challenges have been thrown up at them. You know, even our first day out, I suppose we didn't know what to expect. You know, how we were going to perform. We tried to get a few challenges in beforehand. We got one. We saw a couple of changes there, and we made them. We went out the first day. We're very strong in the first half, but we went off it in the second half, and that's sort of something we looked at then, and then come out the next day then, and the team performed better over the 60 minutes. You know, so there's a clear progression every day as they go out, and I suppose the Munster final was a great test for them to get over the line, and it shows what a team and the character the team have, and all the lads, like. So it's been a super, I suppose, journey, and I suppose, as Cian said, it's not over yet, like. So we want to make sure we finish it off well, and hopefully the boys will be able to come out on Thursday and, you know, do themselves proud, and that's what we want, I suppose, especially for the school and for their clubs, and I suppose for the local Rockhill as well, you know. Yeah,
you know, obviously you're dealing with young lads there. They're all still in their school years, but an All-Ireland final brings with it that extra hype. Obviously, that trip to Dublin for, you know, the photo shoot with all the other clubs that are in All-Ireland finals. I suppose, how do you manage that expectation? Cian mentioned the bunting and stuff and the talk around school. How do you keep the lads grounded and just focus on the game?
I suppose, look, it's no easy feat. Keep, you know, lads, you're dealing with 18, 17, 16-year-olds. You know, it's not about, I suppose, too much trying to keep them grounded. It's just, I suppose, asking them to enjoy it and don't take it for granted, I suppose, you know. And I've said that to them on numerous occasions, like, and hopefully Cian will back me up. I have told them enjoy it, like, you know. So it is an occasion to enjoy. It's not something to try and build yourself down. You want to build yourself up, but obviously keeping a cool head about you as well. And, you know, I think the boys are focused. You know, they know there's a job at hand. There's 60 minutes. We have to go out there. We have to perform, and they know that as well. I suppose my biggest concern is, as Cian said, making sure they don't shorten their responsibilities in school as well, and make sure they're doing the right things in school, and I suppose making sure no one comes back to me and I don't have to have awkward conversations.
Matt, I'll throw it over to you there for a minute.
Yeah, Robert. Just looking through your results there, there were some very close calls in Munster. Obviously you're going into Saturday's final or Thursday's final, following a good win in the All-Ireland semi-final, but really battle-hardened coming out of Munster.
Yeah, 100%. I'd say, look, the games in Munster, they're very competitive, like, no matter what grade you're in, like, and it is something that that's going to stand to us, I suppose, coming through out of Munster like the way we have. I suppose there was games like, you know, you could say we won by 4 or 3 or 4 points, and the final we won by a point. you might say 4 points is not a substantial lead, but the games were much tighter than that. You know, it was tit for tat, a lucky goal. This, you know, the break of a ball goes your way. And look, I suppose it is standing to us in that regard. And we went out in the semi-final and we didn't take anything for granted. And I suppose, you know, you just have to play what's in front of you. And the boys went out and they gave an unbelievable performance, like across 60 minutes. You know, so as we said, we came in at half time in the semi-final, and you know, we were well on top. And so Mr. Fair, another teacher in the school, just said to the boys, you know, we need to go out now and we need to finish this game. We need to win the second half as well. You know, good teams go out and they win the second half. They don't just take the foot off the pedal, and that's what the boys did, I suppose. And I suppose that battle hardness from Munster is what was able to do that performance in the semi-final in the second half. So look, it's a great asset to have. It's on the team, and it's something that, you know, is going to really benefit us in the final. Like,
you won the final in the most dramatic of circumstances against Blarney.
Yeah, it was an unbelievable performance from the boys in the second half. Like, you know, they just came out and they just blitzed them for the first 10 minutes, and they had no response. And with literally, the boys fought on the ground for every ball. There was no dead ball. Every ball was alive for them. Like, they wanted it. Their hunger was there, and you know, we took the opportunities when they came, and that's what. Sure, within 10 minutes we had them back within a point. Like, so, you know, it's super to see that in a group. As I said, you know, you're dealing with 18, 17, 16-year-olds, and to see that resilience in a group of lads. You know, our panel isn't that big, and you know, 1 to 20, everyone is behind one another. And look, Cian had a few words at halftime as well, and you know, it's great to see that leadership on the team, and there's a couple more along with him. You know, and that's what you're just hoping from a group. Like, and look, I'm lucky enough. I'm just mentoring this group of boys. Like, it's their clubs that have done the groundwork. It's their clubs that have put in their training. You know, I'm just lucky enough that I'm involved at school level with him, and I'm very thankful for that. And the lads are repaying me with great success, and it's just unbelievable. And it was an unbelievable performance from him in the second half.
Robert, you have a 25-strong squad drawn from 6 clubs. 13 of them are from Croke-Kilfinny. How much of an advantage is that, lads that are playing with that club and playing again with their school?
I suppose, look, they're well used to playing with one another. You know, it gives them that advantage. They know how they move on the field and what way they want to play the game, and it's of great benefit. You know, they're probably nearly instinctive to know if the ball breaks and they're on the attack. It's nearly instinctive. They know that someone is going to be off their shoulder, or someone is going to come from midfield and is going to run off the shoulder, or is going to be there for them, or they know how the lads are moving inside, and they know where to put the ball, and the lads are just going to be there. You know, it's taking that extra second looking up to make sure that person is there. You know, they instinctively know that you know, these are where their players are going to be, because they're so used to working with one another, I suppose. And again, look, it's, as I said there, it's a testament to the clubs. Like, it's obviously the training they're putting in, that they have this ability and aptitude of the game that they can work together like that and be instinctive enough on the field. So it's, you know, it's of great benefit, really. Yeah.
Cian, turning to you, do you have to pinch yourself at times to think that by maybe 3 o'clock on Thursday evening you'll be an All-Ireland winning captain?
No, I try not to think about it now too much. I just focus on myself and the team, and like how I'll perform now on the day. Like, I won't think about a speech now or anything like that. I'll just focus on trying to perform my best now on the day.
Of course, you have your uncle is one of the most famous Limerick supporters, Bog Carroll. Will Bog be on the sideline shouting you on Thursday?
Bog will be up now in Portlaoise since about 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm sure he'll have a hat and everything ready.
And what words of advice has he given you?
He just said go out and enjoy the day, like, and stay calm. And sure, he'll be shouting me on from the sideline anyway, so that's the only support I need.
That's okay. That's it from me, Jack. Thanks,
Cian,
lads.
Before I go, Cian, just as captain, what kind of role are you as a captain? Are you a talker, or do you kind of let the hurling do the talking for you?
I do a bit of talking, all right. I talk to the boys before the match, and like if they need a few boys needed a few words of encouragement, like I'd give it to them at half time. But to be fair, most of the boys, like, you don't need to say anything to them. They'll just go out and do their job, like. And sure, look, I try my best to let my hurling do the talking at times then as well.
Yeah, well, you've certainly let your talking or your hurling do the talking throughout the campaign. Lads, thanks very much for your time. We wish you the very best of luck this Thursday, the 16th of March at 1:30 in the Laois Offaly ETB Centre of Excellence. You play Lucan CBS in the D All-Ireland Hurling Final. The best of luck and thanks very much. No, that was Cian O'Carroll and Robert McNamara for Colaiste and Trocaire.
I just want to add our best wishes to the lads there. It's a phenomenal achievement, and as Robert McNamara was telling us off there, it's before we started, it's the first year that there is an All-Ireland series in the D competition, and I'd imagine it's the same for the C competition as well, because you will recall that Mitchelstown CBS they defeated Salesian College Pallaskenry in the C final. They are now through to the All-Ireland final against Maharafelt, and it's on in Kinnegad. I think it's Saturday. It's on Friday or Saturday anyway. So, like, you know, if you like, Jack, just on the whole year broadly for post-primary schools, it has been a decent year for Limerick schools.
It has, and hopefully
Castletroy got to the B final. Pallaskenry got to the C final. Rathkeale won the D final. Ardskull Reach were within a hair's breadth of getting to the Hartley final. Just lost out to Cashel, who went on to win the Hartley Cup. So it's a good year.
Good year, and hopefully Colaiste and Trocaire can add the cherry on top and take home the All-Ireland title tomorrow afternoon. I told you we'd come to the football eventually, Matt, and here we are. And last Friday, I know you were away for a couple of days, but your phone would have been busy with the news that Ray Dempsey had stepped down as manager of the Limerick football team. The statement said that his management team was going with him, but one of those is Mark Fitz, and he was also confirmed as the new manager. So it's kind of hard to say what's going on inside there. But it was probably a union that just didn't work. There was 8 games, only 1 win that came in the first one against Waterford. Some heavy losses, and if you're going by the rumours, it probably came to head against Cork. Now the game against Meath was probably their best performance, which is strange to think that it came after that game. But whatever way it happened, Limerick football have a new manager. They need to win their last 2 games to ensure safety. Sometimes a new manager will bring a bounce with him. Other times it takes time. But I suppose, what was your initial reaction to the news?
My initial reaction was, coming in the middle of a season like this, that this is an unholy mess. And, Ray Dempsey was 8 games into his reign. Like you, Jack, and you mentioned it there about rumblings of discontent after the defeat to Cork. And I suppose the margin of the defeat and would lead to rumblings of discontent. And I suppose, but that seemed to have been all parked and put to bed with a very, very good performance against Meath the last day out. When Limerick secured their first point of the league, a point that might very, very, very well save their skin yet in Division 2. But Jack, it's I spoke earlier on at the outset of this podcast, Jack, about the feel-good factor and what the legacy Liam Kearns left in Limerick football. And in the stick, we've from the high from last year. And look, there was no question playing Division 2 was going to be a huge challenge. The challenge was compounded by the fact that you were playing Derry away in the first round and Dublin at home in the second round, the two likely promotion candidates. And it was likely that you were going to have 2 games played and no points. So that is how it transpired. I think the defeat to Louth, like that the performance was good against Louth, but you know, we still came away with no points from RD, like so. And then you had that horror show down in Cork. But as I said, I thought that was seemed to be put behind us, and you know that possibly that we'd have turned the corner, because you're in a situation now, Jack, where you're in a 3-way battle to avoid the 2 places, avoid the 2 counties that are to drop to Division 3. You're there with Kildare and Clare, and we play both of them. So the point against Meath, Jack, brought our destination very firmly back into our own hands. Very definitely. I know it might be simple and simplistic to say it, but it is beat Kildare and beat Clare, and you can preserve status. And judging by the performance of Kildare to date in the competition, it should be possible. And we all know the dynamic between Limerick and Clare when form goes out the window, and you know we don't have fears of travelling to Ennis. But for that to happen, of course, you know, for it to be as simple as that, Derry have to beat Clare in Owen Beg at the weekend. Now you would expect that would happen, but like our destination is in our own hands. Like, lose on Sunday, Jack, we're down.
Yeah.
Because we can't catch Kildare. Win on Sunday doesn't mean we're necessarily up. We still have a job to do in Ennis. So you mentioned there about a new manager bounce. It's something that can go either way, Jack.
Yeah.
You know, you might get an instant bounce, or there might be a settling in period. Now, and we wish Mark Fitzgerald the very best of luck. The only plus side I see is that he has been in the system before. He has been in the system up to now. He was part of Ray Dempsey's backroom team. And my understanding is that it's 3 of there seemed to be a blanket statement that the management had gone.
Yeah.
And we spoke about this off air. I don't think that was entirely correct. In that 3 had gone. We had Mark Fitzgerald, our Ray Dempsey. There was a selector from Mayo and Anthony Maher. Those 3 are gone. But it would appear that Sean Downey and John Chalk are still on board. And my understanding is that there may be 1 or 2 more added ahead of Sunday. But it's such an important game for Limerick on Sunday, and there's so many ifs, there's so many buts, there's so many possibilities. With a new manager coming in, certainly in terms of the league, it's a bit of a surprise, Jack. Let's face it, that Kildare are in the position that they're in.
100%. 100%.
Like they were only relegated last year, and the general perception was that there would be strong candidates to bounce back. And on the first day of the league, Jack, that looked like being the case when Dublin were very lucky to beat them by a point in Croke Park. And one said to themselves, "Hey, Jesus, you know, Kildare, what's been thought about Kildare or what's been forecast for Kildare is correct." But the wheels really came off the wagon when Cork arrived in Newbridge in the second round. Now they got They got a win in Ennis, and but they've subsequently lost to Derry and Louth. And I don't think, from reading, Jack, about it, it's not so much the defeats that'll worry Glenn Ryan and his management team, but the type of performance and the manner of the defeats.
They're yet to score a goal.
They're arriving in Limerick, not in a good place, Jack, but they will know the permutations. Win the football match, Limerick can't catch them. And if Clare are beaten if Kildare win the match on Sunday, and Clare lose in Derry, I reckon Limerick and Clare are down.
Yeah, because Kildare have head-to-head.
They have the head-to-head, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a huge game for Kildare, and it's a huge game for Limerick, but they are extremely vulnerable, Kildare, as are Limerick, and there's so much riding on this game. And as you said, we never thought it would come down to this, that Kildare could be in relegation trouble, and Limerick at the same time. So it's a huge game for both sides, but please God, Limerick can get the job done. And one thing we know is Limerick have the players to get the job done. These players haven't, forgot how to play football overnight. We've some of the best defenders in the country, I think. We've some lovely attacking players. The signs were there against Meath. It's just about, if you can deliver a performance like you did against Meath, you'll have that extra bit of confidence. I think Limerick can get the job done. And look, that's what they need to do, because anything else and the good work from last year will be undone.
It's not the green mist descending profusely across my eyes, Jack, but I'm tending to lean towards Limerick getting a new managerial bounce.
Yeah, and I'm agreeing with you
based on the performance against Meath as well.
And I think Limerick might see a certain man back in the stand, and it'll be the perfect return present if the hurlers can, first of all, secure a league semi-final place, and the footballers can get a first win of the year and bring their survival hopes to the last day. So that's Limerick against Kildare at 4:15 this Sunday in the two.
Now, Jack, we'll be waiting anxiously for Thursday or Friday evening for the announcement of the team.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be very interesting.
That would be very, very, very interesting.
Yeah, but there's so many dummy teams these days. You don't know what to expect. But I would just urge people I
have a view on that thing has to be stopped.
Yeah, but anyways, the people that are there.
I'll tell you one thing, Jack. I'll tell you one thing. The man that has led Limerick to 4 of the last 5 All-Irelands does not indulge in that shenanigans.
Yeah, that's very true. And talking about the hurlers briefly, there'll be a huge crowd there for the hurlers, as there always is. I'd encourage everyone that's there for the first game to stay for the second game and give the footballers the support they deserve, because these teams are training as hard. The results mightn't be the same on the field, but they're training as hard. So if you're in the Gaelic Grounds, stay for the 2 games. It's a good day out. I would imagine it's the same price to stay for both as it is to go to one of them. So the best of luck to the Limerick footballers this weekend, and hopefully they can get that.
I agree totally with you, Jack. I would appeal to the people to please stay on and give them that support. It might be one of the most important games in Limerick football.
Oh, it'll definitely be one of the most important games in Limerick football for a long time, regardless of what way it goes. But I suppose in a more positive and negative note, the Liam O'Connor Cup, which you mentioned earlier, Limerick were in the final against Clare. They lost. It was on in Clare again. We went through that last week, so we won't go on that they got 2 home games. But 1-4 to 12 points is a respectable scoreline, especially when you consider it was 2-14 to 5 only about 3 weeks ago. Limerick seem to have changed their setup. They've gotten more defensive, and it's working because they beat Offaly, who were All-Ireland champions 2 years previously. This is a really strong Clare side. This Clare team will be backing themselves definitely as the second best team in Munster and pushing Kerry fairly close. But for Limerick under 20s to be in a final first and foremost bodes very well. They have Waterford in the first round championship, which they'll be expected to win and lay down a marker. And then, you know, once you get into the semi-final, if you get in the semi-final, it's Cork. It isn't Kerry. Now Cork are formidable at that level. But on the Liam O'Connor Cup, Matt, first of all, good to get there, good to give a good performance, and plenty of learnings to take from it.
Yeah, absolutely, Jack. And we spoke here last week, if you'll recall, about the value of the competition in terms of preparation for the championship. And like Limerick are after getting 4 very, very good games now in this competition, and you know, you can see the level of improvement. As you rightly pointed out there, that Limerick in the league game against Clare, or the group game of the Liam O'Connor Cup, got beaten 2-14 to 5 points by Clare, and it was much closer in Milltown Malbay last Saturday evening. It was 6 points to 3 at half time. Ended up 12 points to 1-4, as you say. A certain gentleman from Ballysteen got all of Limerick's 4 points. David O'Shaughnessy, who's a huge prospect, by the way, in my view. And you had Mike Malloy from Knockaderry got Limerick's goal. But it puts Limerick in good shape, Jack, going into, is it April the 10th? It's on a Monday night.
10th, yeah.
Against Waterford in the first round of the championship. So, yeah, I think it has been a very, very well worthwhile exercise on the part of Limerick to be in a competition like that, and Limerick took it seriously, and like the wins over Tipperary and Offaly, and you know, certainly we were involved with a very exceptionally good Clare side this year.
Yeah, that's fair to say. And look, it just bodes well for the future that Limerick are beating the likes of Tipperary and Offaly, and it's a very good Clare team, as you said, but that they know when they get to adult level, and please God, they'll be in Division 2 at least when they get there, that they compete against these teams at an underage level. So commiserations to Shane Kelly and his side, but congratulations on getting there in the first place. I had said at the start, Matt, that I wanted to come back to hurling to ask you one question, and I mentioned you briefly yesterday, but we're hoping that Limerick have played 4 games in the league now. We're hoping that they'll have 3 more. Wexford, a league semi-final and a league final. So if they do, that'll be 7 games. From the 4 games you've seen so far, who have been your standout players for Limerick? Now, you won't have seen all of them, but who for you have been the standout players so far for the hurlers in the league?
Tom Morrissey.
That is.
Well, he's been absolutely outstanding, in fairness.
Yeah.
I think his brother has been very, very good as well. You know,
yeah.
There are a number of performances. I'd be extremely happy with the impact that Shane O'Brien has been making on his first year, and I'd also be very, very happy with the impact that the like of Donegal O'Donnell has been made. I thought Dara O'Donovan, he wasn't on last week, but I thought in the first 3 games he was extremely, extremely good and consistent. Yeah. You know, there are a lot of positives there. Kyle Hayes, certainly in the game against Galway, was absolutely outstanding. So, Peter Casey looks like getting back to his sharpest best. And you know, they would be the standout players for me. Plus, of course, the 4 that have come on board since last week.
Yeah, for me,
I have no doubt that when we'll be having this debate next week, we will be looking back on they having made their mark in the Gaelic Grounds on Sunday, I would imagine.
Yeah, for me, I think having the year of Kyle in the forwards between club and county has really brought his striking to a whole new level. You obviously know how well he's good at running with the ball, but the fact that he can now stroke it over from the bones of 100 yards is another deadly weapon. But for me, I think Dar Donovan has been the standout player for Limerick. He featured in all the games so far. Now, very briefly in Mullingar, but William Donoghue gets so much praise beside him as probably the best midfielder in the country. But, Dara goes about his business. He's integral to the Limerick team. He's a brilliant hurler first and foremost, but the work rate he puts in, I just think he's been very, very good this year. And obviously Tom Morrissey has really come alive in the last few weeks. But it's good to see so many Limerick players going so well so early in the season, because they'll all be needed.
They will, Jack, but, Limerick won the All-Ireland last year and completed 3 in a row. And to that 3 in a row winning team, you add Cian Lynch and Peter Casey. 2 times hurler of the year, Cian Lynch and Peter Casey. Gives you an idea of the position and the strength of where Limerick are going into this year's championship.
Oh, yeah. I don't think...
irrespective of what will happen in the league, Jack.
Yeah, I think they're the envy of every other county, and long may that continue. I was just intrigued to get your thoughts on that there, Matt. Anything we missed over the course of the first 70 minutes? Because there's always 1 or 2 things that we seem to forget. But remember, straight after the podcast to stop recording.
No.
I don't think there's anything else. So this weekend, so many teams in action, obviously.
Yeah, but I suppose, Jack, as we said at the outset, the whole week has been overshadowed by the loss of 2 icons, and we certainly cannot lose sight of that. And I'm sure they'll be remembered at the Gaelic Grounds on Sunday, and remember whatever Limerick teams play. So let's hope for a good weekend. As I said at the outset in our opening remarks, it's a defining weekend for the senior hurlers, senior footballers, and senior Camogie.
Yeah, it's a huge, huge weekend. Obviously St. Patrick's weekend, so hope everyone has a nice Friday. They can get out to parades. Hopefully the weather is a bit better on Friday, Matt, so that we're not washed out of it.
Are you going parading, Jack?
I don't know. The 𝘬𝘴𝘰𝘪𝘢𝘵 team are on below on the field. There's 3 games on in Ballysteen on Friday morning, 10, 11 and 12. For anyone that's interested, and I don't know, I might go watch a bit of Cheltenham for the week that's in it. This is the only week in the year where I watch a bit of horse racing. And while we're on that, the best to look to the real whacker in the Browns advisory. That's at 2:10 today, Wednesday. He's trained by a local man, Paddy Neville, who's over in England at the moment, and Davy Mann is invested in that. So there's a real Ballysteen connection in the real whacker. So hopefully he'll come good. And that the small bit of money that all the locals have on him will be worth it. But the best look, Paddy.
Not only are Ballysteen taking Limerick by storm, they've now taken Cheltenham by storm.
Well, that's the goal. Fingers crossed. That'll come good today, and it'll start a good weekend for us. But an hour and 12 on the clock, Matt. I think that's a podcast. The best look to the hurlers, footballers, the Camogie team in action this weekend. Rakiel School, obviously, on Thursday. A big thank you to everyone for tuning in. Make sure to like and subscribe and follow and all that good stuff. Big thank you to Knowles Menswear for getting involved. It's great to have a sponsor. And if you're looking to get decked out for St. Patrick's weekend, or even if you're thinking of going over to Cheltenham in here and then, make sure to head into Knowles Menswear. There's a shop there's 2 in Limerick and there's 1 out in Newcastle. All the details are on our website. So a huge thank you to them. And a huge thank you to you, Matt. As always, we'll call it a day at that, and we'll be in touch soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack.
Especially in the game, we get out with what you put into. It's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
But not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods, and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well done, Sean Buckley. To do that to Tomás O'Shea, he deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the workout today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the packet in it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time left? We have a couple of injuries. Here comes 𝘕𝘰𝘬𝘭𝘴 leading the charge of the right brigade. 45 metres out. He's a chance to score. He's put it high.
There's no sympathy in this game for anybody.